Okay, this lesson is a short lesson on interval notation and how it compares to other kinds of notation. And we're familiar with some of these, but I wanted to just give you a comparison here of how that. So on the left here, I've got the verbal expression of x greater than a, x greater than or equal to a, x less than a, x less than or equal to a, and then a combination. There are several possible combinations, but we'll just illustrate one here, x less than b and greater than a. Okay, so the inequality symbol that you're probably already familiar with, let's just look, let's use blue. So we would say x greater than a, we would say x is greater than a, right? If we had a number line, the number line notation would be that this point a here, okay, we would draw a circle and go this way, saying that x is greater than a. For interval notation, we use a parentheses and put the expression a here, and we would have something else out on the other side, but because interval notation typically is used with bounded on both left and right, so negative and positive, or two values left and right. So we'll see how that works when we get to the last illustration here. X greater than or equal to a, we use x greater than or equal to a, and we would say here, remember on the number line here, if this is point A, we would fill in our circle, right? And for interval notation, the change is that instead of using a soft parentheses, we use a hard bracket type parentheses, and that's that. Okay, and so then x less than a would be x less than a, and I'm going to switch to make my a's this way, and as you know on a number line, then that would be a circle, and then we would be going less than a, okay, and on the interval notation, we would say a over here, okay, and it would be on the right side instead of the left. And x less than or equal to a, we would have x less than or equal to a, and on the number line again, we use a filled in circle to indicate the value is included, okay, and on interval notation, we would write our a and then a bracket, and we would have something presumably in front of that. Okay, so finally, let's get to the one where we have less than b, greater than a. We would say x is greater than a. Notice no equal sign there. X less than b, okay, less than b. And then for the number line notation, we would have a and b, and we would have the two circles, okay, not filled in, okay, and then for interval notation, we would say less than b, greater than a, so it'd be greater than a would be on the low side, b would be on the high side, and we would write it like that, okay, and we could go ahead and show a couple more examples, but I think you get the idea. If we had less than or greater than, less than or equal to b and greater than or equal to a, we would use the hard bracket on the interval notation. Okay, so let's compare just real quickly. Let's compare a couple of things. Let's suppose we do have the number line case, and we have, let's say this is 0, and we go 2, 4, 6, minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, minus 8, and then we'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, and on the number line notation, we would write this. Let's suppose we had a is greater than 8 and less than or equal to minus 8 and greater than or equal or less than or equal to 6. Okay, so how would we write this? Well, in our normal number line notation, greater than 8 minus 8 would be a circle, and less than or equal to 6 would be a filled in circle, right? And we would connect those two like that, right? And so now how would we do that with interval notation? Well, here's the minus 8. Well, I'll just write it on the same one here. And so let's change color. And what I would do here is I would do a soft parentheses, carry that all the way over to 6. And at 6, I would have the hard bracket. Okay, so that shows you how those compare with all three methods. Here's your inequality notation here. And here's your number line. And here's your interval notation. Okay, those are the three types. Now let's look at that on a graph and see how we would deal with the same kind of thing. Okay, so here's a graph. And let's use one of our quadratic, and let's say we have a curve and we want to restrict the curve because it doesn't, it's not very useful for something. So let's take a curve and we'll just make one up here, and we're going to start here and we're going to just do something like this. Okay, and we'll do that. Okay, so what is our domain and range here? Okay, so the domain range, let's look at the domain, and this is where interval notation really comes in handy. So first of all, we'll do all three. We'll do the inequality notation, and then we'll do the interval notation. So notice that we are going between, and let's go ahead and label these. There's -2, -4. There's let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, and -2 here and -4. Okay, so what about the x values? Remember, this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis, and so the x-axis goes from -3, okay, between 2 and 4 here, -3 to +10. Okay, so we would say that x is greater than -3. There's no filled in circle here, right? And this is the number line notation that's on the graph, and less than or equal to 10, right? Less than or equal to 10. Okay, and what about the range? The range would be from -2 to 9. Okay, 9 is between 8 and 10 here. So we would say that the range is between -2 and greater than, y would be greater than -2 and less than or equal to 9. Okay, so there's domain and range. And then what do we do with the interval notation would be, we would list that as the -3 with a parentheses and the endpoint as a 10 with a bracket. So the interval notation domain would be -3 with a parentheses, and would be +10, and it would include the value 10, so we use the bracket. The range would be again -2 here for y, and the high value would be 9 for y, and that's the bracket. Okay, so real simply, that's the quick discussion of interval notation, and that's something you really need to become familiar with. Notice that this is much simpler to deal with in terms of writing something down without taking a lot of space or having to sit and figure out too much. Easier than using the inequality notation, I think. Okay, and that concludes that little short lesson. Thank you.